Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Between Two Worlds. Man, it has been a little while since I posted, and honestly, I took kind of a much needed break for at least the holidays and, well, a lot of brainstorming for the new year, which I really am super thrilled for. There are a lot of exciting things that I am planning, and I will definitely share pretty soon, but not today. Okay, so honestly, before we get into today's topic, I want to catch you guys up on some things that have been happening in my personal life. 2025 has started, and hopefully for all of you, it has started off pretty good so far. I have to say, I kicked off the new year pretty excitingly by going out with my friend Charlene from Witchy Work Wishes. And well, we went out and got ourselves some crossroad nails and we left offerings to Hecate. It honestly went so well. I think we both walked away from it just feeling amazing, like everything aligned. So the first round of nails we got from a post at a crossroads was at sunset at the evening of the 31st. Then we went to another crossroads at 12 a.m., right on the dot, right on the new year, to get our next set. So now these 12 a.m. crossroad nails, I think, are definitely the most potent when working with them. However, the ones that we gathered at sunset definitely have their own purpose, but these ones I think were just truly so magical to get. The timing was so perfect. I arrived at the spot first that night, and oh my God, there was a cop sitting right at the crossroad. I immediately and kind of instinctively got spooked and just kept driving. And so I pulled over a couple roads down and I called Charlene and was like, "So there's a cop out there, like exactly where we need to be." So we kind of had a moment of freaking out. We met at the road that I stopped at and sat there, kind of contemplated it, even though we were running out of time. Then Charlene kind of just goes, "Fuck it. We're not doing anything wrong, so let's just go." And I was kind of hesitant, but I laughed and thought about it for a few minutes or a few seconds, really. And I decided, well, I guess you're right. We really aren't doing anything wrong. So we went. We parked on the side of the road and started to walk up to the crossroads. And oh boy, here he came. He was driving up to us. He stopped and asked, "What are you girls up to?" I just looked at Charlene and, well, before I could even try to make up any sort of excuse, she just spills her guts and goes, "Well, we are going to get some nails from the crossroad for some witchy projects, if that's okay." And, we were giggling and totally fluffed it up, and it was definitely non-threatening. And the cop was super nice. And of course, he said yes. And he actually said that he would pull back and turn around and watch us so we wouldn't get hit. He specifically said, "I will protect you guys." It was amazing. It made us feel so good. He told us no rush. And so we finished our quest and we got our nails. It was so nice to have that extra layer of protection, especially at that hour. Then, as we walked back to our cars, he literally followed us along the road as we walked and even got curious and asked more about the uses of the crossroad nails. We told him, not super into detail, but we just laid it out, surface level, and he seemed to enjoy it. And then he just told us to be safe, and that was that. It was a really good experience. Then for our final round of nails, we went to the same crossroad because we had such a good feeling about it when the sun rose. And so we have these liminal times, right? We have the sunset, we have 12 a.m. right on the dot, and we have sunrise right on the dot. We were literally pulling out these nails as the sun was setting, as the sun was rising, and as soon as the clock turned 12 a.m. Even though I got on a little bit of a tangent there, I think that was kind of an important story to tell and maybe even inspire some of you guys to go ahead and use crossroad nails. I know they are an extremely magical and potent material when it comes to working with magic in any sort of sense. You know, whether it's crossroad work or not, they honestly can be a really good, um, almost like a step in for authentic coffin nails. You can use them for quite the same reasons. So I did also want to say that we did leave offerings for Hecate, and I think Charlene also, we talked to her a few days later, and she did say to me that she had a vision that an owl was actually watching us. And I'm sure it actually was, and it was there. However, we were so almost preoccupied by our interaction with the police officer that maybe we weren't paying attention to it. But I absolutely believed her. It almost was like Hecate sent that vessel down to protect us as we got these nails. Let's get into today's topic. On today's episode, we are going to talk about what it means to be a powerful witch and what all of that includes. Feeling powerful, finding power within the craft. There are so many different aspects to this, and it is not a one size fits all. In light of the new year, and even as us witches may be setting new goals to feel more powerful, this is something I want to kick off with. I want to start by redefining some means of power. Throughout history, the witch has been considered an extremely powerful entity of itself, often demonized, of course. And in my personal opinion, I think this honestly plays into the whole religious conditioning of how power equals evil, or power is a sin, it is a temptation, and a purely human desire. But in reality, power can really morph into many, many meanings, like independence or sovereignty. This has all led in some way or another for the archetype of the witch as a whole to be suppressed. Definitely looming over the woman archetype and the feminine power, but this applied to anyone nonetheless who seeked gaining their power or their own sense of power, really, for themselves. This is a huge modern misconception throughout history and in today's society. It has a tendency to equate power with control, with dominance, or being overly performative in a craft. It is tied to the ego. Sure, we don't want a blown up ego, and staying humble is absolutely important, but society is what created the polar opposites of making us believe that you can only be one and not the other, when really finding the balance between the two is honestly a witch's language, right? We are here to find balance. We work with balance. Now, within the witchcraft community, power is misconstrued with spells that work, quote, or having an outwardly impressive practice. All the oils and the candles, or executing a spell every single day, having a permanent spot up in your house, having a daily devotion to a deity. Honestly, that is not what power means to everyone. If you find power in those practices, that is one thing, but that is not a step-by-step rule for living and being a powerful witch. It is even more pungent on social media, where everyone lives to impress another. It creates a distortion of power that makes it feel honestly unachievable to the other side of the screen. I think power starts as an inner journey. No matter how it manifests within the material world, it can only be achieved through personal growth, authenticity, and resilience. And yes, I'm about to say my favorite word, shadow work. It's a key player in this journey, no matter what. It is not the act of running or hiding or even denying the existence of what we dislike most about ourselves. Within our shadows, we face fears, we integrate lost parts of ourselves, and honestly, we discover our true desires and authenticity. I want to do an episode on shadow work, of course, and really dive into it. So reclaiming power really can only be achieved by looking at yourself first. Can you feel powerful without shadow work? Sure. But in my opinion, that only gets you really so far. The power you may feel without seeking out the deeper work can often feel like a facade or just being surface level. Or you can sort of reach a brick wall in your practice. You cannot pour from an empty cup, right? Or in this sense, maybe the cup is only filled with water and you want to make lemonade. You want to find, or at least you need to find the lemons and the sugar, right? Okay, I know that is a really weird metaphor, but I love metaphors and that's kind of just what popped into my head. But what I'm trying to say is sometimes when we are within our practice and we want to achieve certain things, these shadows within ourselves create walls. And it is our job to get past them. Whether that's around it, over it, under it, however, we need to break through that wall. And then we are allowed to then discover further parts of ourselves. And that is the empowering part. That is where we can integrate more parts of our true selves. So, exploring and acknowledging your own vulnerabilities and then working with them is a radical form of power. And embracing imperfections is key to unblocking this authenticity. Once we begin to accept that failures and mistakes lead to learning, and from that comes growth, then we can recognize and feel the personal power, all joining in to strengthen your practice. So when it comes to feeling powerful in the craft, what does that actually mean? Feeling like a powerful witch in general. There are a lot of ways to work with rituals or spells to aid in building power, like daily grounding, which for me reminds me that I have my own space on this earth within the cosmos, understanding and feeling that there is a place here physically supporting your body and spirit. That is empowering for me, absolutely, and it kind of brings me back down to earth. Enforcing power is just as important, right? So once you begin to recognize it within yourself, we have to do what we can to protect it. You probably worked so hard to even gain that feeling to begin with. So let's do what witches do best and create a barrier of protection for it. That means honoring it by setting boundaries within the craft and personal lives to protect it. I know, at least for me, especially right now, this is a huge thing within at least my family dynamics. There are some situations happening right now where this is something I've been putting into a daily mindful practice, keeping that buffer between my energy and their energy, even when we are in situations where we want to give all that we can to help the ones we love or hold close to us. We cannot do that when we strain our own batteries. And being a magical person, it's all the more important. Our energy can easily be absorbed and used by other people, and honestly, that shit will make me sick. Like, my body physically manifests. It's great because I could be feeling really, really good, but as more icky energy creeps in, sometimes it can stick if my words are not strong enough or what I do to protect myself has not been at least revamped. You know, I will get sick, headaches, colds, stomach issues, loss of appetite. So after experiencing these symptoms, so what seems like a really long time, I take precautions on these areas of my life. It is important to say no and honor the limits you have once you come to find where those are. There will always be challenges with power once you begin to reclaim it. Sometimes it can feel like every challenge that could ever exist tries you. At least in my experience, it's almost like the universe sets me up for challenges or these trials to test how I will use what I have just learned. I need to honor the work that was done, not run back to what maybe could be easier or more comfortable for me. But the fact that I am choosing to be uncomfortable and sticking to my ground is absolutely the clearest way to recognize that the power is being tested and it's being strengthened. Honestly, I think that is the best thing that we can do that is right by our own selves by enforcing it. Otherwise, you're just taking one step forward and two steps back. Okay, so let's jump back to the connection between power and the witch. This is something I definitely want to talk about a little bit more here. And there is this fear of a powerful witch, right? The witch who lives on the outskirts is already threatening to communities. But shit, when her curses start to work, it's a different problem. The crops are failing, there's many plagues, poor weather. Basically, when the natural pendulum swings the way that people try so hard to keep it from going, this right here is the absolute demonization of witchcraft that was imbued by the clergy. So that leads me to say it wouldn't be an episode of Between Two Worlds if we didn't talk about religion and witchcraft together. We already know how Christianity historically portrayed witches as dangerous, aligning them with Satan to instill fear, but also to suppress personal power to solely benefit the church. The people needed to depend on the church and on God in order to be used. A crippled society is a society that is easily manipulated. There is a direct connection from the big foot of the church squashing personal sovereignty. Now, I don't want to say all power comes from within one's self, and that is just my opinion. Many witches feel power comes from deities or working with spirits. As magical people, we can pull power from many, many outlets. And honestly, that can be a healthy thing because if we're pulling energy and power from within ourselves constantly, this is just a recipe for us to feel absolutely drained. Working with gods, spirits, allies, ancestors, there are more things that charge up this battery than just ourselves. We work in tandem with spirits of all types to feed this. Now, I personally have always found the bulk of my power to come within myself, but I have always been connected to spirits as well. Land spirits, plant spirits. I have worked with other energies outside of myself, well, for quite a long time, really since I began practicing witchcraft. And these spirits grant their own power to be lended to me. That for me is a bit more contract based. However, I leave plenty of offerings for gratitude. And for me, this is the cornerstone of keeping those relationships alive and healthy for when the time comes. And I am doing a ritual and I am doing a spell, and I ask for a bit of their power to be lent to me. So, besides the spirit work, personal power is a main target of religion. It reduces you down to nothing without your God. It is quite purposefully discouraging for people looking to embrace their full potential. Religion and even the societal pressure religion has marked on communities in general have done a really good job on creating this internalized religious guilt. This still impacts a lot of witches. There is a shadow there, whether it be personal or collective. It is a deep fear of stepping into power because, well, that was never allowed. Humans are not allowed to be powerful. That is only the seat for God. But you are allowed to claim power, and that is not dangerous. There's no shame in knowing how to manipulate the energies around you to create your own reality. Reclaiming this power can be achieved through the deconstruction of your own religious guilt. Challenge the narratives imposed by religion, even if you do not have a religious background. Just because you didn't go to church growing up doesn't mean you have not felt some sort of shame by everyone else going around you. Societal stigmas is one that unfortunately may never go away, but instead we have to learn to navigate the choppy waters of it. Like I mentioned earlier, the boom of social media has led to a large impact of self-criticism, which, surprise, surprise, humans are really good at within the witchcraft community, especially. And for me, this was something I was a little bit hesitant about when starting my podcast, because I don't want to say take the high road, but I choose not to get involved in it. But here I am, and I am hoping all the right people find me, and I find all the right people. So, anyway, I'm not saying that all witches or practitioners who are on these platforms are creators, of this societal distortion. I have to say a larger portion of them are. It's inevitable. Misinformation on the internet will always exist. The real power stands within finding your way through it all. This societal pressure can lead to internal struggles with feeling powerful. A lot of people who are even first starting out or finding witchcraft instinctively turn to the internet. While it is an amazing resource, of course, and yes, even tangible resources like books can carry misinformation and its own rule of uglies. That's just the pure fact of people sharing their own UPG, especially in the spirituality community. It is so easy to be misled in the age of the internet. Imposter syndrome can set in, feeling inadequate in the craft. We only see what we see, right? One little square picture of an aesthetically pleasing altar or a 30-second video of the perfect petition to a deity. It is not all that realistic and practical. Obviously, we have to understand that, right? That is kind of what social media is. It is what people want us to see about themselves. While everyday practice absolutely has the ability to look and feel that ceremonial and, well, pleasing, sometimes grabbing cinnamon out of your McCormick bottle in your kitchen is more realistic than it is grinding your own sticks or sprinkling it out from a stained glass jar that sits in a perfectly full apothecary all the time. These are the things that are okay. They do not make your practice any less effective. In fact, in my opinion, I think it's really making the magic work for you. That being said, I want to talk about spell effectiveness if we are talking about their power in the craft. You may immediately think that being a powerful witch means every single spell you do works out perfectly, or it works in general. There is a myth of spell perfection. This is the exact ideology that makes witches feel inadequate when certain results aren't achieved or come out as expected. Does a failed spell mean you're not powerful? In my opinion, no. But feel free to leave a comment on your own thoughts. I would love to hear what you think about it, and I think it's actually fascinating, and it's a really good topic for witches to engage in so we all hear each other out. So many things affect spells. If you write your own, this is probably something you are familiar with. There are many external and internal factors to spellcasting. Timing, energy alignment, intention clarity, these are all things that impact spell outcomes directly. Power of a witch is not diminished by these external limitations. You have to learn to reframe failed spells. No spell is truly a fail. Even if they lead to unexpected results or lessons, they are just as valuable. There can be this concept you connect the spell to divine timing or greater forces are redirecting your energy towards maybe what you truly need. But power lies beyond results in spellcraft. The act itself of crafting and casting spells is powerful. Take what you would have done and apply it next time. Understand why you may change certain elements. Focus on the power you feel in your body and in your soul as you are physically casting the spell, rather than focusing on the result. After having a quote failed spell, some may feel like it's hard to try again, or mainly discouraged, but use it to build confidence. Journal about your original intention behind the spell and restructure it. Refeel those same feelings that arose when you were casting the spell itself. You can even meditate on how the spell might manifest differently than expected. The results will most likely still be there. Your spell probably still worked. You just need to find where it lies. One of my favorite things to do is have a specific spell journal for tracking patterns and refining these techniques, and even celebrating and have reflection on growth over time. Your power as a witch is not tied to the outcome of a single spell, but to your courage to cast it. Your belief in yourself and your connection to your magic. Most importantly, is knowing in your heart you are connected to this magic. Throughout my life, even when I went some time without casting a spell or doing a truly witchy act, which I think is another thing that a lot of people on social media kind of portray, is that being a witch is something you do every single day. Being a witch is something that you are every single day. We do not have to physically cast a spell every single day to be a witch forever. We are always practicing within the craft. Every single day, we are just a vessel for magic, and it is constantly flowing through us, even as we do mundane acts. That's kind of our superpower. We learn to take mundane actions and magical intention and make it work for us. There's really no doubt in my mind that I have never not been a powerful witch. And I don't want that to come off as egotistical, but I could feel my connection to magic itself. That cord was uncut no matter where my human life took me. Reconnecting to that cord is simple, it just takes effort. All witches are connected through that cord to the magic itself, feeling it and knowing it. I think that is what makes all the difference. So, I guess what I could stress to anyone listening to this is picturing that cord, even doing some astral work. Connect to it or strengthen the cord. I'm a huge astral surfer. You know, maybe that sounds a little silly, but if whatever, however you want to call it, the work I do in the other world is extremely important to me. Even if I go a little while without doing any physical work in my craft, I always connect to my spirits and inner temple through the other world and keep the connection strong. I really stress on keeping my connections with spirit allies and ancestors, and sometimes even other entities, if that means working with my own servitors and caring for them. Either way, it's something that I do often. It is something that has never really left me. All right. Well, I think that might be enough for this little tangent, and I hope it wasn't all over the place. And maybe this episode wasn't as long as I hoped, but I'm really striving this year to create more of a bulk in each episode for you to enjoy, either weekly or bi-weekly. I hope, you know, really to pick this up weekly, but we will see how long that takes. But I am definitely going back to bi-weekly, and I appreciate all of you who have stuck with me or picked my episode back up. Hopefully, I keep you guys and maybe some new followers too. Anyways, I hope you all took at least something from this episode, and I am extremely, extremely excited to share some future things with you all, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, morning, or night, wherever you are.